Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about something that sounds simple, but has actually become incredibly difficult in modern life. Spending a full day without your phone. No scrolling, no social media, no checking notifications every few minutes, and no constantly reaching for a screen whenever there's silence.
Honestly, just hearing that makes me slightly uncomfortable already. I think most people believe they could do it easily, but the reality is very different once you actually try disconnecting for a whole day.
Exactly. Last weekend, my phone died unexpectedly on Saturday morning, and my charger was still at my office. At first, I thought, okay, annoying, but not the end of the world. But within a few hours, I started noticing something strange.
Let me guess. You realized how often you reach for your phone automatically without even thinking about it.
Constantly. It was honestly shocking. My hand kept moving toward my pocket or the table beside me before my brain even realized what was happening.
That's the scary part. Phones aren't just tools anymore. They've become automatic habits connected to almost every moment of daily life.
Saturday morning was when it really hit me. I woke up, reached for my phone automatically, and then remembered it was dead. For a few seconds, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling strangely anxious.
Because silence feels unfamiliar now. Most people wake up and instantly flood their brains with information before they're even fully awake.
Exactly. Normally, the first thing I do every morning is check notifications, messages, news headlines, emails, and social media. My brain barely gets a chance to wake up naturally anymore.
And people wonder why they already feel mentally exhausted before breakfast.
Seriously. But because I couldn't reach for my phone, I just stayed there quietly. And after a few minutes, I started noticing things I normally completely ignore.
Like what?
The sunlight coming through the curtains, birds outside the window. Even the sound of distant traffic somehow felt calming instead of annoying. That's actually really interesting because those are tiny details people used to notice naturally before phones dominated every quiet moment. Exactly. It made me realize how disconnected I'd become from my own surroundings. I was physically in my room every morning, but mentally I was somewhere online.
That's such a strange modern experience. Your body is in one place while your attention is somewhere completely different.
Then I got up to make coffee, and that's when I noticed another automatic habit. While waiting for the kettle to boil, my hand kept wanting to grab my phone.
Every tiny waiting moment has become phone time now. Waiting in line, sitting in traffic, standing in elevators. People immediately grab their phones instead of just existing quietly for a moment.
Completely. And honestly, I think we've become uncomfortable with boredom. Silence now feels almost unnatural to people.
I agree. Phones have trained us to constantly expect stimulation, entertainment, and information every second of the day.
Exactly. But since I couldn't scroll through anything, I just stood there, looking out the window. And I noticed my neighbor's cat sitting on a wall staring directly at me.
Important cat business.
Very important. But honestly, it made me realize something. I had probably walked past that same cat hundreds of times without ever noticing it because I was always staring at a screen.
That's actually kind of sad when you think about it. The world is still happening around us while we're mentally trapped inside our phones.
Exactly. Tiny moments, little details, random conversations, sunlight, weather. We miss so much because our attention is constantly somewhere else. Later that morning, I decided to read a book, and honestly, the first 30 minutes were difficult.
Your brain kept demanding stimulation?
Exactly. Every few minutes, I felt this restless urge to check something, even though there was literally nothing to check.
That shows how strong the habit becomes over time. Phones train people to expect instant rewards constantly.
Completely. I'd read 2 pages and suddenly feel this uncomfortable uncomfortable urge to grab my phone. It almost felt physical.
That's because attention spans have changed dramatically. Most people aren't used to uninterrupted focus anymore.
Exactly. But after about an hour, something shifted. My brain finally calmed down. And suddenly, I became completely absorbed in the book.
Like rediscovering concentration?
Exactly. I lost track of time completely. And honestly, I hadn't focused like that in years.
Phones really have changed the way people think and process information. Constant interruptions make deep focus feel unusual now.
Absolutely. Normally, I read for 10 minutes, pick up my phone for just a second, and then suddenly 40 minutes disappear.
And every interruption breaks your concentration completely.
Exactly. People underestimate how mentally exhausting constant interruptions actually are.
What about conversations? Did anything feel different socially?
Definitely. That afternoon, a friend called me, and we ended up talking for almost 2 hours.
2 full hours? That almost feels old-fashioned now.
It really does. But honestly, it felt amazing because I was fully present during the conversation. I wasn't half listening while scrolling through something else.
That's becoming rare now. A lot of people are physically present during conversations, but mentally distracted.
Exactly. And people can feel that, even if they don't say anything directly. They notice when your attention keeps disappearing.
Attention is probably one of the most valuable things you can give someone now.
Absolutely. And afterward, I realized something important. Real conversations give you energy. Endless scrolling usually drains it away.
That's such an important distinction. People confuse distraction with relaxation all the time.
Completely. Scrolling doesn't actually relax me, it only distracts me temporarily, while my brain keeps processing endless information.
I feel like evenings are probably the hardest part for most people.
Absolutely. Evening was definitely the hardest part for me, because that's when I normally spend hours scrolling through social media, YouTube videos, and random content online.
And most people don't even notice how many hours disappear that way.
Exactly. I sat on the sofa feeling restless because I didn't know what to do with the silence.
Which sounds crazy when you say it out loud.
It really does. But honestly, I think many people are uncomfortable being alone with their thoughts now.
Phones became a way to avoid boredom, stress, awkwardness, and even emotions sometimes.
Completely. But after sitting quietly for a while, the discomfort slowly faded. I made tea, looked outside for a bit, and eventually called my mom.
That already sounds healthier than scrolling for 3 hours.
Honestly, it was wonderful. We talked for nearly 2 hours about old memories, funny family stories, and things we usually never discuss during quick calls.
Because real conversations need time.
Exactly. And when the call ended, I felt emotionally full instead of mentally exhausted.
That's such a huge difference.
Something else surprised me too. I slept better those 2 nights than I had in months.
That makes sense. Endless scrolling before bed completely destroys healthy sleep patterns.
Absolutely. Normally, I spend at least an hour looking at screens before sleeping. My brain never gets a chance to properly slow down.
Phones keep the brain stimulated constantly. Bright screens, endless information, emotional reactions. It's impossible to fully relax that way.
Exactly. And honestly, I think many people are carrying around constant low-level anxiety without realizing how much their phones contribute to it.
I completely agree. People are mentally overloaded all the time now.
Then, Monday morning came, and I finally turned my phone back on.
Let me guess. Endless notifications waiting for you?
47 notifications.
And most of them probably didn't matter at all.
Exactly. A few messages were important, but most of it was just noise. Promotions, updates, alerts, random notifications, social media reminders, things that honestly didn't improve my life in any meaningful way.
Sometimes distance helps you realize how overwhelming something actually is.
Completely. When you're constantly inside the noise, it feels normal. But after stepping away for even 2 days, you suddenly realize how exhausting it really is.
Did anything actually change after that experience?
Definitely. I started leaving my phone in another room during meals. I stopped checking it immediately after waking up, and I started spending less time on screens before bed.
Small habits like that can completely change your mental state over time.
They really can. I started feeling calmer, less anxious, and much more focused during the day.
I think many people are searching for peace without realizing how much mental noise they allow into their lives constantly.
Exactly. And I'm not saying phones are evil, they're useful tools. The problem is using them unconsciously all day long.
That's the key difference. Intentional use versus automatic habit.
Exactly. Once you become aware of the habit, you can finally start making choices instead of operating on autopilot.
So, if someone listening wants to try this, where should they start?
Start small. Maybe eat one meal without your phone, or spend the first 30 minutes of the morning offline.
Small steps are much easier to maintain than extreme changes.
Completely. And honestly, pay attention to how uncomfortable it feels at first. That discomfort tells you how dependent the habit has become.
But if you stay with the discomfort long enough, it slowly disappears.
Exactly. And on the other side of it, there's often more peace, clarity, and focus than people expect.
Honestly, I think most people are searching for a quieter mind without even realizing it.
I agree completely. Sometimes the answer isn't adding more stimulation. Sometimes it's removing some of the noise.
That's such a powerful idea.
And maybe the biggest lesson for me was realizing how many small moments I had been missing because my attention was always somewhere else.
Like the cat sitting on the wall outside your window.
Exactly. Especially the cat.
Honestly, that might be the perfect message for today.
Maybe it is. Look up once in a while. Notice the people around you. Notice the quiet. Notice the little moments you normally miss.
Because life is still happening outside the screen.
Exactly. And sometimes disconnecting from your phone helps you reconnect with yourself.
That's the perfect place to end.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Take care, and we'll see you next time.
After several months, learners often notice major changes in confidence, speed, and comfort during conversations.
The important thing is consistency, not perfection.
You do not need perfect grammar to communicate effectively.
You need courage, repetition, and patience.
So, let's review today's most important ideas.
First, understand that speaking difficulty under pressure is normal.
Second, train your mouth muscles with daily pronunciation practice.
Third, use shadow speaking to improve speaking.
But growth often requires quiet. Some of the most important realizations happen in silence. People discover what truly matters when distractions disappear.
That's uncomfortable for many people at first. But eventually, silence becomes calming instead of frightening. It creates space for reflection.
Before we finish, I want listeners to remember something important. Life does not require perfection. You do not need to have everything figured out today.
You simply need to become a little more conscious, a little more present, a little more intentional with your time and attention.
And honestly, small moments matter more than people realize. A peaceful morning, a meaningful conversation, a quiet walk outside.
Those ordinary experiences often become the most valuable parts of life. Not because they are dramatic, but because they are real. Presence gives them meaning.
So, if someone listening today feels overwhelmed or lost, I hope they remember this. You do not need to transform your entire life overnight. You only need to take one meaningful step forward.
One honest conversation. One small habit. One moment of courage. That's enough to begin creating change.
And most importantly, remember that your life is happening now, not someday in the future, not after everything becomes perfect.
Every day matters. Every conversation matters. Every moment of attention matters.
Remember that emotional communication is a skill that improves with practice. The more honestly and calmly you express yourself, the more confident you will become. And confidence grows step by step.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We truly appreciate you listening, learning, and practicing with us. And we hope to see you again very soon.
This is Anna. Take care of yourself and keep practicing your English every single day. And remember that your voice and your feelings matter.
And this is Jake. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep expressing yourself with confidence. Bye, everyone.